Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex here. Today we are here to look at F1 2016, some of the reviews that have been coming out the last couple of days. Obviously a lot of the information that's already been broadcast over there of sort of official feeds, but some little pointers in the reviews that I've been noticing stand out, and I want to get them across to you guys in the video today. Obviously I don't have any gameplay to show in the background, so it'll probably be project cars, but hopefully in this video nonetheless there will be some interesting points that you may not have realised about the game so far. So anyway, let's get into it. A little update on the safety car, which a lot of people end up talking about in this game. Obviously it was not in F1 2015 at all, which is obviously something we were all really disappointed. But now this review from Trusted Reviews talking about F1 2016 says that the safety cars, they're not that bad. They do deploy not that regularly, quite infrequent, which obviously a little bit disappointing. Obviously most F1 races, I don't know, maybe like 60-70% of the F1 races do end up having a safety car at some point. Maybe it's less now actually, I don't know. I'm sure someone has the statistics, but apparently they're quite infrequent, and the only real thing that happens in these safety cars now is that you can try a new strategy, attempt to really undercut your rivals that maybe you weren't going to definitely beat at the end of the day. So that's cool. It's nice to have the safety car, and again, obviously in my opinion it would always be nice to see the safety car come out. I know not every race would be a bit too much, but maybe half the races the safety car coming out for a little bit, maybe be able to see the crash at the side of the track, the marshals working on the car or something after the crash. That would be, I know that's maybe a step into the unknown for Codemasters. We haven't really seen sort of moving figures like on the track like that before from that I can remember, but that would be something cool in the future. But for F1 2016, the most important thing, the safety car's back, and let's hope it's good. I mean, it's hard to really tell from what they've said here. I mean, apparently, saying that a lot of people might not end up using the feature, but of course, everyone that that loves F1 is going to be turned on the safety car and the virtual safety car feature, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, it makes those races interesting, especially when you have no chance of points, and then suddenly you get thrown in the deep end, and suddenly you're in a chance. So we'll see what happens with it. I'm sure it will create a lot of interesting races. But I suppose we'll see when the game is fully released in about half a month's time. Interestingly though, in the same article they talk about the virtual safety car, and the reviewer, maybe, obviously I don't really know him, obviously I can't tell whether he's a massive F1 fan or not, but he said that the virtual safety car is obviously very similar to real life. You have the time delta which you're not allowed to beat, and you are pretty slow, and he's saying that it's not really adding that much to the game. But I do think this is the sort of stuff where it's, from a casual fan to a hardcore F1 fan, this is what makes the big differences. But then to the standard viewer, standard buyer, it might not mean anything to the game whatsoever. But the virtual safety car, obviously, for us massive F1 fan, adds a lot, because it adds an extra rule or an extra system that's actually in real life into the game, which obviously we've missed some of the stuff in the past. So he said it didn't add a lot to his overall experience, but for me, I haven't played it yet, but I think this is going to be something that it might be a bit tedious if it happens every single race, obviously off every single little accident, but I do think it's going to add a lot. I do think it's going to make races interesting, maybe a switch up in the strategy like the proper safety car. Obviously we'll see when the game fully comes out, but for me, obviously, reading this review, I'm assuming he's not a massive F1 fan. Sorry, just re-watching that, I guess it might have come across a little bit mean. I didn't mean it like in a bad way. I don't know whether he's obviously into his F1 as much as maybe a lot of us here on YouTube are. Just from seeing that maybe a lot of this stuff doesn't add to his experience. But also talking about not the safety car this time, the warm-up lap. Very interesting to see that there's no sort of proper goals on the warm-up lap. I know, obviously, what do you really add to the warm-up lap to make it really exciting? But maybe a little system there, before the start line, that you've got to weave up and weave side to side and get up to temperature at maybe the precise moment. That can maybe give you a little bit of XP or whatever to take, to help you in your career or something like that. Something like that would be cool to be added. I mean, obviously he's saying here that there's nothing like that, but maybe something like that, getting the tyres at the right temperature, the brakes at the right temperature just before the start line, maybe could increase your chances of a really good start. Who knows whether stuff like that will be added in the future. Obviously it's little ideas. Obviously once we know F1 2016, we know how it is, we can sort of just keep improving and improving. I mean, by the looks of it, F1 2016 is going to be an absolutely awesome game, guys. This isn't the end of the video, by the way, but I've talked to a couple of guys about this, and F1 2016 looking really good. I think you guys are going to be excited about it. Obviously, myself, I haven't played it, but talking to a few people that have, looks like it's going to be a really good game. Next up, whilst talking about the sort of tyre tests and everything in practice, they do mention that these are actually quite important to actually make the game more exciting and give you more motivation to keep going and keep trying to do stuff different in practice. So they say these reward points, pretty easy, arcadey feel to the game, but it keeps the motivation going, which is nice because it means that I know probably a lot of you guys do too, but for me, when I load up the F1 game, I might do a couple of practice little races on try to find out the difficulty or whatever, and then I'll probably just skip straight to the qualifying of Australia. I generally don't do the practice, but this will definitely give everyone a bit more motivation to do practice and get a bit better at the game. This could even help the game online by people actually, you know, getting used to the tracks, understanding the cars a little bit more. It means that when people finally get to online, they're not going to be so bad. You know, there's so many, no offense, there are so many quite terrible players online. Basically, they're just there to crash into you and take you out of the race. And hopefully, stuff like this, where you get to learn the track, you understand how the car works, will actually make people better online. Let's keep our fingers crossed. It's definitely not going to be 100% perfect like we all expect it. Well, we all hope it will be at some point, I should say. But hopefully stuff like this, even though it's not directly, you know, talking about the online, hopefully it will actually influence online people and make them better at the game. Talking about the damage, obviously it does look like it's much better than it was before. Obviously before you could just crash into pretty much anything and still finish the race somehow, but by the change of the damage model, they obviously switch it up a bit here and obviously make it a lot tougher for people to just step into the game with damage on and just have a good race, you know, straight away. Because obviously, as soon as you have a bit of front wing damage, it does affect your whole race. So I think it's going to make, you know, all this little stuff. I was talking about the online just there. This sort of stuff like this, where obviously you've got to, you know, judge and overtake perfectly. Otherwise, you could end up losing. Sorry, a bit of your front wing. All that sort of stuff will hopefully make people better players on the game. Stuff like, to be perfectly honest, you guys have seen me racing in the career modes in the past. Sometimes I go for over-optimistic overtakes and might not even get any damage. But this time, if this is the case, you get much more damage. It's much more realistic. It's much more sort of sensitive, I should say. That's the right word. If it's much more sensitive and you go for a crazy overtake and you could wipe out your front wing, where, you know, for example, F1 2015, you could just keep driving around with the whole car intact. So, in my opinion, once again, thumbs up from Codemasters. Everything I read about this game makes me more and more excited about playing it. Come on, hurry up, release date. Surprisingly, this article goes on to talk about the motorhome and sort of the interaction with the sort of crew around the motorhome. And I'm not gonna lie, I was quite disappointed when I just read this, that apparently it doesn't really add too much to the game. You know, it's just nothing, a bit nothingy. They're saying this sort of paddock experiences. Obviously, when we played F1 2010, 2011, we really enjoyed that part, and all the videos I've seen of this sort of part of the game look much better. So I don't know whether, you know, obviously the review obviously maybe not particularly into his F1, but stuff like this obviously really makes me excited for the game, makes me actually feel like a racing driver. It does say that Codemasters haven't mastered the art of facial modelling and animations, which is a bit, a little bit, maybe, you know, I don't know, it's probably a bit weird if, you know, you're looking at some of the people in the game and people are just sort of constantly doing the same thing with their program to just sort of, you know, look around and then sort of talk to people in their corner or whatever. And, you know, obviously facial modelling, it's, you know, it's not the main part of the game, let's be honest, guys. Don't hate on Codemasters because this little bit might not be perfect, but it's stuff that they can improve over time. That's why I think they really always should have just kept it in, because if they kept it in 2012, 13, 14, 15, then they'd have improved it year by year. But by taking it out, they lost the momentum where they were improving it, and it just ended up stopping. So, you know, they say this part didn't particularly add to the game. I think for a lot of, you know, big F1 fans it will. I know this review from Trusted Reviews, it's a really good website. They have a lot of really good reviews on their site. This one maybe not particularly coming from a Formula 1 fan, so maybe you can see, you know, if you're a casual just F1 fan, you might be getting this game as like one of your 5 games this year just because there's not much coming out. Maybe you might not particularly enjoy this game. Maybe this game, you know, it's what basically a lot of us as the hardcore F1 fans have been asking for years. We've been asking for a much more realistic game. Lots of these little features been added in. A lot of these little features might not mean anything to the casual F1 fan, but to us who really enjoy our F1, it means a whole lot. So I think that's where this article's coming from, guys. Obviously it sounds quite a downbeat, me reading this article. It doesn't make it sound that exciting, but for the mega F1 fans, these little sort of tiny additions to the game mean a whole lot and will make this whole game go from decent to amazing. Let's hope it is. Weirdly, this first review ends up saying, even though obviously a lot of this has been quite downbeat by the look of it, it says, ends up by saying F1 2016 could be an instant classic. If Codemasters can nail the online, it's got a really good chance of being the best in the series. I mean, I think most of us are just guessing it's going to be the best in the series. A couple of people that have played the game have told me it's the best game yet so far as well. So I think we're looking like it's going to be a great game, but it's just whether these little features that we've been asking for a long time really add enough to the game to make it exciting. I think they will. Anyway, let's move on to another review, pick up some other little pointers. I know this video's already gone on for over 10 minutes, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Sort of updating you guys on maybe what you haven't seen so far, other people's opinions of the game. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. I know it's something slightly different to what I've done in the past. Obviously I don't have the game for myself to play it, so I can't really give you my personal opinions, but by looking at a lot of different people's opinions, you can get sort of a broad idea about what's going to be in the game. Another quick review here. Obviously a lot of the reviews mention the same sort of thing, so we're not going to keep going over and over the same reviews, but another one from EFTM. It looks like an Australian game reviewer here. He says that something quite cool about the game is the really strong in-team rivalry, and that means that obviously really big emphasis on beating your teammate each time, and also try and give them as much feedback as possible. And by the looks of it, it's going to make it a much more exciting game. Obviously, if you for example, let's just say you're at Ferrari, you're determined to beat Sebastian Vettel every race, and maybe giving a bit more feedback than him, then you might end up becoming the #1 driver. I think that sort of thing, once again, it's a very, very small adjustment to the game. It's going to make it much more exciting for the passionate F1 fan that's been waiting for this for years. Something this reviewer does mention though, is one of his disappointments of the game was the car setups, something that obviously has been pretty similar in F1 games ever since F1 2010. We all know the 11-11 and that sort of situation where you could basically put it on basically any sort of setup and it wouldn't make much of a difference, but 11-11 and 1-1 and all that sort of stuff definitely worked in like F1 2010. But more of recent, I don't know how much the setups really made a difference, because I generally just ended up using quick setups because I really don't know how the setups work. But obviously to the people that really understand the setups, stuff like this is going to be a bit disappointing. If we look at Rfactor, for example, that's always been up there for me. Rfactor, you can absolutely nail every little bit of the car, weight distribution, and the really fine details like gearing ratios. Obviously something that's been in F1 in the past, but even finer than that. That's really like the pinnacle in terms of car setups. I think iRacing is very similar, probably even better than Rfactor in that aspect. But car setup, F1 2016 doesn't look like it's been that, much improved over F1 2015 or at all, which maybe we can understand. There've been so much improvements elsewhere in this game. There's inevitably going to be some things that are very similar to F1 2015. I think we're going to have to accept this. This is definitely going to be the biggest leap in F1 games. Obviously we had the sort of jump from Xbox 360 to Xbox One, that sort of thing, but in my opinion this is probably the biggest jump. This is what is most important to Codemasters. They need to get this one right, otherwise who knows what's going to happen. But we've said it could be a game breaker for F1 Codemasters for years, but it never actually has ended up being that way. They've always ended up coming back with a game the next year, which obviously we all want. We want there to be F1 games, and Codemasters have really done the job, and they've really helped us out with some really decent games over the years. But car setup, that might be a slight disappointment to massive F1 fans. The last review that I found here, which adds a little bit extra to this video, is from Pistonheads. Obviously I didn't really realise they they post anything about games and all that, but Pistonheads is sort of I think it's a car buying and selling website. But a little bit of news, them talking about the F1 2016 game, and something they've also mentioned, which a couple of these other reviews have talked about as well, is the graphics. They say it's obviously, in general, this game is a much improved game in a lot of areas, but the graphics don't seem very, or if at all, improved over F1 2015. Obviously we're waiting for a 4K release game from Codemasters in the F1 world, so they're saying that even though the visuals are decent, they're solid, but they're definitely not quite as good as other games like Forza, Project Cars, or even Dirt Rally. They say has better graphics, and I've always been up for the debate on this one. How much do graphics actually mean, or how much of a difference does decent graphics to good graphics and good graphics to amazing graphics? Does that make a really massive improvement to the game for you, especially with a racing game? I can understand maybe like an RPG or whatever having to have really good graphics, but for a racing game, in my opinion, the car feeling right, the car being nice to drive, fun to drive, generally being enjoyable. It was always more exciting or better than just having a game that was, you know, really good graphics. I mean, I've always been a massive fan of Rfactor 1. It's a game that's never had great graphics, but has always ended up being really fun to drive around in. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this game is going to be affected by its graphics maybe not being that improved, or you just don't care? Let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Thanks for watching. I know this video is a little bit different. Obviously, I don't have the game myself. I know I've mentioned it a couple of times in this video already, but obviously if I had the game myself, I could give my own opinions and really tell you guys about what I really enjoy, maybe what I think could be improved on. But I don't yet. As soon as I do, we'll hopefully get some sort of video up. I'm really planning an epic career mode, so keep my fingers crossed. I mean, I've been busy work like full time, so it's really hard to make videos in the first place, but when this game's out, I'm putting basically a lot of my spare time into just making some sort of videos for you guys, just trying to talk about the game, stuff that maybe hasn't been talked about already. I'm sure some of it has been already, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself or repeating someone else, but this is just basically, I can't see every video, I can't see video that everyone's ever made. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys. Remember to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new to the channel. A like would be appreciated. And yeah, hopefully more F1 gameplay coming up this weekend, obviously the German Grand Prix. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this video, hopefully you enjoyed what on your screen right now. That's F1 2016 gameplay from Hungaroring. Onboard looks really good. Also, if you haven't left a like on the video, I'd really appreciate that as well. It really does help me out grow the channel. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. That is linked as a sort of a little button down below if you want to do that. That would be really appreciated. My Twitter and many other social links are linked in the description if you want to keep up to date with all of the new videos. Once again, I really appreciate you guys helping and supporting the channel. It's been the best few months on YouTube for me in terms of enjoyment in a very long time, so I really appreciate your guys' support. That's really helped me through it. So thank you for watching. Once again, I'll see you soon for more F1, MotoGP, and maybe even more. Goodbye.